Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Hey everybody, it's Jeff. So I got some interesting. I found some interesting video here that was put out today by Raw News and Politics that they had found, some oddity that had happened that raised some red flags, and this is concerning Graham Platner and his dropping out of the race. And so it appears that there's been people calling morning show, I guess it was, and ostensibly they're probably from Maine, okay, calling and saying that they were pressured to get Platner off the ticket, okay, by Democrat Party. And remember, I told you several videos back that a lot of the commercials against Graham Platner were not from Republicans, the Republican Party. They were from, APAC Dems. Okay, that's where that was coming from, and it could. And the reason I know this is because when they do the they put the who put it together underneath the fucking commercial. If you read the small print, okay, which a lot of people don't, but if you take the time to read, you'll see who put it out there. So it was APAC Democrats, okay, who put that out there about him. They were attacking him all year, for months now, okay. And so anyway, there's this video I'm going to play for you here from Raw News, and I want you to watch it, okay, and just think about that while you're watching this. Okay, so let's go to the video. We'll come back and discuss that.
Welcome to the show. So by now, you guys know Graham Platner has dropped out of the Senate race for Maine against Susan Collins. I want to talk about, though, not that specifically, but something very suspicious that appears to have been going on in the lead up to this. And this is coming from people who were very Platner skeptical. These were Platner skeptics, I guess you could call them. They were not fans of his. So this makes it even more credible. But it seems like there was some shady shit that was going down. And that's how this all came about. So I want to set this up for you before I play this first video, because about a month ago, Graham Platner was on MS Now. He was on Morning Joe with Joe and Mika. And Mika was just grilling him about all of the allegations up until that point. And she had made this, bizarre line of questioning about, oh, well, with your allegations and history, would you feel comfortable pushing for the Epstein files? And he's like, well, yeah, I mean, all of my relationships have been with adults. I'm not accused of anything like that. So everybody was rightfully giving her shit for that. So it just shows she is not a fan of his. She's really reaching. So it was kind of surprising to me on Monday when they reported on Morning Joe about these new Graham Platner allegations of him assaulting an ex-girlfriend. So take a look. I just clipped out the parts of her interview with the journalist who broke the story in Politico. And I just broke out the pieces where she's really going at him. And it shocked me. It really hit me she's really now acting very skeptical of this news story. So take a look, and then I'll explain why now this makes sense.
Question to you, given the very high standards Politico has before they write something like this and publish it, what aspects of this story brought it to the level of publishable? So what are some of those corroborating pieces of evidence? So you've got conversations with her therapist and people who she confided in. Any conversations with Graham Platner at the time of it where she said, because apparently as part of this story, she says she even confirmed to him that this was not consent. Do you have that? What do you have that actually connects this literally? Graham Platner to raping this victim. But were you able to see the interactions between Graham Platner and this alleged victim? Did you actually physically see them? Did she produce them for you? I'm going back to the decision to publish, and I'm curious what concrete evidence. You have conversations with therapists, conversation with friends, but what took this story beyond Graham Platner saying this was consensual, Jenny Rasco saying this was not consensual? But those are, what is the actual, is there evidence between her and him, evidence of a crime, because he's being accused of rape?
So as you hear there, like she continues, she's just dogged with it. Like, what is your evidence? Because the guy kept giving her, well, this is what she said. This is what, her messages said. This is what her, what she sent her therapist. And so Mika Brzezinski is acting very suspicious. And it just stunned me. It took me aback because I was like, this is not someone who likes Graham Platner at all. What is going on here? Well, I got my answer this morning because she and Joe and one of their co-hosts admitted that they have been hearing rumblings and they've been getting a lot of phone calls from people who were specifically targeting Graham Platner and were trying actively to take him down and get him off the ballot. So I have a few different clips to play for you. Take a listen to this first one.
Tell you without revealing any names that we have been bombarded by phone calls and text messages from people who want Graham Platner off the ballot, who are high up in Maine politics, and we've been getting that for the last 2 weeks. Mika and I have been scratching our heads for the last couple of weeks going, why are we getting all these calls about Graham Platner needing to be off the ballot?
73-year-old woman who is just
like constant calls.
What do you know? People calling them nonstop about this. And then their co-host that you saw there, Jonathan Lemire, he confirmed that he also has been hearing this. Take a listen.
And certainly, you're right. I received a lot of these same concerns. There was institutional opposition to Platner within the Democratic Party. Now, some of that is because they feared other scandals were coming, and obviously that ended up being correct. But there was more to it, and there really is a Washington feels very isolated from the rest of the Democratic Party throughout the rest of the country right now. And I think as Maine looks to replace Platner, they're going to have to be careful, to your point, because they risk losing some voters. That if they think that the next nominee is just sort of handpicked from D.C. or someone who doesn't resemble Platner at all, there's a chance Platner will lose some of that support when Susan Collins does appear vulnerable at a moment when Democrats at least look like they've got a real chance to have a wave this November.
What do you know? So Jonathan Lemire hearing the same thing. And then just to, round it off, here is Joe Scarborough again saying how unusual this is.
Nothing to do with the allegations and whether they're true or not. And again, that is something that, over time, people can sort through everything and figure it out. I will tell you, though, in all my years in politics, I have never once, when a candidate won a primary overwhelmingly, I've never once seen in a Senate race or a congressional race. I'd never had people calling. I've never had people like 10 days, 2 weeks out, basically saying, we're going to try to get him off the ballot. We're like sending people up to Maine and basically we're going to go through all of Maine because we think there's more and we're going to find more. And we have 2 weeks or we have 10 days, we have 8 days to get him off the ballot. That's what they were saying before these allegations came out.
Yeah. So up until the last minute, you had the Democratic establishment pushing, scratching, sifting through, digging up, trying in any way possible to get Graham Platner off of this ticket, off of the ballot for the midterms. Why? Now, I'm not saying like Joe Scarborough said, it's not to say that these allegations aren't true, that this woman is lying. Although we have to admit the timing does seem very suspicious. And now you hear this and it makes you go, things that make you go, right? Like, is this another Bernie Sanders type of smear campaign? Is this just the establishment once again doing what they do because they're afraid of losing power and not being able to grift off of their insider trading and all of their sugar daddy donors? Is that what this is? Now, two things could be true at once. This woman could very well be telling the truth, and the Democratic Party could just be very well going, yeah, let's tank this guy. Because let's look at it this way. Nobody was out to get Eric Swalwell, right? The Democratic establishment wasn't tanking Eric Swalwell when allegations were coming out. It wasn't until there were videos and the public outcry was so massive that they were like, oh yeah, he should go. But there were rumblings. There were, from what I have heard and read, this was kind of a known secret with him. And nobody said a damn word. You know why? Because he was an establishment candidate. He was a bought and paid for corporate candidate. You can do whatever the hell you want if you're a corporate candidate, but you cannot put a foot out of line. You cannot have any skeletons in your closet if you are anti-establishment, if you are a progressive, if you are a DSA member. But if you want to toe the party line and be down the line, milk toast, vanilla, middle of the road Democrat who takes corporate cash and APAC money and does the bidding of their corporate masters and keeps the status quo, you can be the biggest scumbag in the world and you can do that. So anyway, there you go, guys. Like I said, two things could be true at once. This woman could very well be telling the truth, and it could be very convenient because Graham Platner, as we all know, wanted to stop funding to Israel. He wanted to stop giving them weapons. He wanted to make sure that there was no more insider trading. He wanted to make sure that everybody had health insurance. He wanted to make sure that the billionaires got their tax cuts, removed, and that they paid their fair share. And yeah, they don't like that. I mean, all we have to do is look back to 2016, what they did to Bernie. We have to look back to 2020 and what they did to Bernie. I mean, all those phone calls made by Obama and Nancy Pelosi and the secret meetings that they held to get everybody else to drop out once they saw that Bernie was picking up steam and he was doing really well in 3 or 4 out of the first states. I mean, this is what they do. So, and again, I'm not even saying that he shouldn't drop out. I'm not saying that Graham Platner shouldn't drop out and should not run. I'm just saying that when the establishment puts their finger on the scale, there's a reason for it. And we should all be suspicious and we should all be against it. All right, guys. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please donate if you can. Love you all. Take care. Talk with you soon.
Well, it's pretty compelling stuff, I think. Again, I'm still getting a lot of fucking bitching from people about, you know, my position on this, and I don't see how anybody could be against it, because it is the way the law works in this country. Okay? An accusation does not prove somebody guilty of anything. Okay? If this woman was raped and she says she has evidence to back it up, then she needs to take this to court. Okay? She shouldn't have gone to the press with that. You know, and there was a person that I was talking to about this over Texas Roadhouse here. Was it today or yesterday? No, today. Okay. And she said, well, it's so hard to prove rape in court and stuff like that. I said, that doesn't matter. You don't go and do a hit job on somebody just to ruin them or something like that because you can't argue and win your case in court. What you do is you take what you have and you bring it to an attorney or somebody and let them figure out what to do. Okay? Going about doing it this way and then disappearing after the fact does not make you credible. Okay? And as she said, and you know, in this video, the timing of this was all fucking suspicious because they knew they only had till the 13th to decide whether they were going to stay in the race or drop out, because they already had somebody in mind to replace him with. Okay? They didn't like the fact that he swamped, got the approval of a lot of people in the state. You know, Platner did. They didn't like that. And like I said, if you declare war on the swamp in Washington, D.C., the swamp hits back hard. Bernie Sanders knows that. Okay? He easily could have been the president of the United States if the election was honest, but it wasn't. Okay? Shit was done behind the scenes, and he was talked, to step down from it. Okay? And I don't know what it was the agreement was made, but there was certainly some, a lot of conversations, private conversations, and all of a sudden, he bowed out, and Hillary Clinton was the one pushed out front. Okay, and the rest is history. But here they're doing this again. Okay, they're doing this shit again. I think they are. And the fact that this was so suspicious in its timing and it didn't come out sooner, says to me that, whether it was true or not, she made her claim. She made her accusation, and they said, well, we got somebody. We're going to sit on this till the last minute where he's not going to have enough time to decide what to do or mount some kind of a counter offense or something. They probably were sitting on this woman here for a while, and then they waited, okay? And then bang. Just about a week outside of the, the day that, the deadline, that's when they hit it. So he didn't have much choice. And since he was losing supporters right and left and all that, because, people get scared when you drop the R word on somebody, he didn't have a choice. He had to drop out. Everybody knew he was going to drop out. There was no way he could continue this campaign to election night with no support. Okay, you got to have money. So, yeah, they shot him in the foot, and he had to bow out. And that's kind of how I feel it's going down. And like I said, I'm not saying that she wasn't raped. Okay? I'm not saying it. All I'm saying is I'm the guy on the outside. I don't know Platner's private life. I don't know this woman's private life. She said, he said, you know what I'm saying? That's how I'm looking at it. I can't read minds and know if they're lying or not. All I'm saying is that it's suspicious. Okay? And if what she said in that video is true, they could dig around to try to find out what happened, but they're really not going to come up with a whole lot to incriminate themselves. They're going to keep it quiet. But I think the fact that they're not going to answer that would kind of speaks volumes right there, don't you think? That maybe, you know, they did do something. They're not going to talk about it, okay? Apparently, I mean, it was no real secret in Maine anyway that the, you know, the Democrats didn't like him per se, but they were worried that too many Mainers did, okay? And I think, you know, they knew he wasn't going to be a team player, okay? Especially for those people who, you know, benefit from the same corruption that some, you know, that Susan Collins does. I mean, they're all in on. Like I told you, the Democrats and Republicans aren't that far apart here when it comes to, you know, money and all this shit. Okay, they're all into it. I mean, they can't be where they are if they didn't get some, you know, from somebody up higher up. So when this guy comes out and starts talking, you know, he wants to make the wealthy pay their fucking share in this country and do all the stuff. Hey, that's like committing suicide on live TV. You know, those are dangerous words. Okay, a person doesn't come out and say shit like that and expect that they're going to get anywhere in life. I mean, as far as Graham Platner's concerned, he's crucified, and yet nothing's been proven. It's still all accusations, even at right now, today, Thursday. Okay? It's still accusations, and still nothing's been proven. Okay? Nobody said a goddamn thing. No one's shown us anything. We haven't heard any audio or any proof of anything of this. It's just her word against what he says. He flatly denies it, that he raped her. Okay? He flatly denies it, and he still denies it. Okay? But he's a man. And she's a woman. And when a woman cries rape, we're supposed to drop everything and believe her right off the bat. We do that a lot. We do that a lot. I mean, and I think about some of the kids who accuse their parents of abuse and come to find out the kid was lying. But the parents have been ruined. Okay, because the whole neighborhood hates them now. The accusation carries a lot of weight, and it shouldn't, because a person should be innocent until proven guilty. Okay, and I know a lot of people say, well, if they're innocent, they wouldn't get... That's the system we have. When somebody levies a crime on somebody or accuses them of a crime, they have to investigate it. It doesn't mean that they're guilty. It means they got to make sure that that's true. They're actually doing the investigation to protect, you know, the person being accused, to make sure that, yes, this really did happen. Okay? And a lawyer isn't going to pick up that fucking case if he doesn't see that he's got enough proof there to try and condemn that son of a bitch. Okay, you know, they're not going to do it either. These are safeguards put into place to protect us from being wrongfully accused of crimes, which does happen still. I mean, it does happen a lot today. Okay, unfortunately, you know, with the media and courtroom TV and stuff, and you know, the popcorn eating atmosphere that they give us here, we're all entertained by seeing somebody crucified. It's kind of like the Roman Empire. We watch people getting killed in the arena, okay? We sit there and we watch these fucking crime shows, and we sit here and we feel good that justice prevailed, but we don't know, okay? We don't know the whole story. We're just the people, the audience, watching this at home. And so for 25, 30 years that they've been doing this on TV, okay, we've been conditioned, I think, in a way, to just automatically assume, oh, he's a rapist, he's accused of being, to jump the gun and condemn the guy without really hearing the story. And what also plays into that too, and I know this is, you know, something people don't like to talk about, but racism also plays into that too. If, say, you know, a black person is accused of, you know, raping somebody, a lot of people are going to automatically assume he did it because he's black, okay? So we have this pattern in America that's got to be broken. And I say that we start by doing what I was saying. Let this woman try and take this to court. If it comes out that it's not provable, that she lied or something like that, then he has grounds to sue her for defamation of character, okay? I know that that's not going to undo the bell ringing because, you know, he's dropped out of the race. They're not going to let him back in now. You can guarantee that. But at the same time, it'll educate the public into saying the next time you hear somebody doing that, saying shit like that about somebody when they're just about ready to move on in politics, always remember what happened here to this guy. Be suspicious. Don't take anything at face value. Don't just assume that woman is right. Okay? Some people are pretty good actors and actresses to make themselves look like they're victims, okay? You have to be able to go by the evidence. That's why I say, if a woman's been raped, you need to go to the goddamn police and get a rape kit done. Okay? Don't wait 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road to do this. You got to get the evidence, because later on you might decide, yeah, I'm going to go after this guy, but you ain't got nothing left to offer to prove your case because you just didn't go. You didn't go and get that done. I know women are going to get mad at me and say, well, look, you don't know what it's like. You get humiliated. You know what? Men sometimes get raped and stuff like that, and a lot of them do the same thing. They don't, you know, they feel humiliated and stuff. But look, think about this. If somebody shot your kid, would you be humiliated and stuff like that to not go to the cops and say, look, okay, a crime is a crime, okay, and nobody should be picked on or harassed or anything like that because a crime was done to them. Nobody should do that, and people who do that should be arrested or at least punished in some way, because that is wrong. That's what creates and continues to feed the monster of keeping women from going to seek justice, and why men want them to feel afraid so that way they can go rape somebody else. Okay, as long as women are too afraid to speak out, then that's good news for the man. Why do you think men the guys that rape women, they'll go and threaten them? You open your mouth and your parents will die, or or something's bad's gonna happen to you. They intimidate them. It's because they're guilty and they know it. Okay, but like I said, if you fucking allow that to go on and you kowtow to them and you don't report that you're being hurt, no woman is ever going to feel comfortable reporting a rape. So I'm saying, look, you've got to prove these things. You have to prove these things. It's a must, okay? Because you can destroy a life in this country, in this day and age, with a fucking accusation. That's what you can do. That's way too much power to give to one person. That's way too much, okay? Unless you are Donald Trump, that's going to stick to you, and you're going to end up paying for the accusation for the rest of your fucking life, okay? Because that's all everyone's going to remember of Graham Platner. He was popular. He made people agree with him. He spoke their language, and then somebody accused him of rape, and he had to disappear, okay? But like I said, the story shouldn't end like that. It should go on and say, and she tried to bring him to court to charge him for a rape, and and say, what I'm saying, that's the rest of the story here. But you're just leaving everybody hanging, and what happens when people are left hanging? They come up with conspiracy theories. They come up with, oh, this might have happened, or maybe he did do it, or because he dropped out, or people are guessing. It drives people crazy because they have nothing substantial to back up any fucking conspiracy theory or any opinion that they have. And that's the one thing we need the most, because we're not mind readers in this world, okay? We can't look at somebody and know their past. So, like I said, it's a problem that happened in our society, and I think directly related to how we entertain ourselves every day at home, watching videos or TV or whatever the hell program it is that's doing these things, okay? It's like, it goes back to this other thing I once bitched about, the TV show Cops, and how a lot of the cops, how a lot of the episodes showed them arresting black people. And, and I always thought, well, Christ, it's making it look like black people do nothing but commit crimes, okay? They're doing that again, still, okay? They're not on Cops, but other shows that are like imitating cops, okay? Especially with these body cam things, they pick and choose which body cam to put in, you know, to show stuff. Like they'll, you know, if there's a woman half dressed or something, well, we got to grab that in there, you know, or something like that. But you see what I'm saying? We're being conditioned, groomed, if you will, for a lack of a better word. You know, we're being groomed to think a certain way about stuff. And the only way you can stop that is by going back to the basics of law. Okay, when someone is accused of a crime, then that person, whoever's making the accusation, has to take that matter to court, or take it to the law, drop it in the lap of the law, okay, and let the wheels roll. Because it's not right for that person to go around and start saying bad shit about somebody, you know, because you're trying to turn everybody's head or trying to make everybody support you. You could be lying. You know, and they figure, well, if I can get a bunch of people to support me, that'll create a critical mass, and all of a sudden he'll just be condemned, and that's enough. Okay, it's not enough. At least it's never been enough for me. Okay, I don't like the idea of people saying shit like that and then everybody just running to it, because you look right after that woman made that accusation about her being raped, you should have seen the videos on YouTube. Everybody's jumping on that, saying that son of a bitch. Okay, all these, almost 9 out of every 10 videos was people condemning him right off the bat. Nothing was proven. It's just an accusation, but already people are trying to jump ahead. They're all trying to say, oh, I was right about this guy. You know, all these other things they said about him. I knew it. You know what I'm saying? They can't wait but to be out there, you know, to be like somebody, oh, that you should listen to, or, you know, trying to promote themselves that, oh, we knew all along. Okay? You see what I'm saying? So there's this great big back and forth going on YouTube with people discussing this, arguing this thing out, pissed off, you know what I'm saying? All this emotion right now over this thing with Graham Platner. Okay? And it's silly. Because at the end of the day, nothing's been proven. Not a fucking thing. We still only have her word against his. She claims she has evidence. No one's seen it. No one even knows what it is. Okay? That could mean, it could be anything. It could be anything. And until, you know, I see something that substantiates to, you know, a little bit more to her story, I can't make myself go there to say he raped anybody. Okay? I mean, he admitted to some of the other things that, you know, they were trashing him about before. Okay? He didn't hide from any of that stuff, which somebody would probably say, well, it wasn't rape, so he could, you know. Well, at least, you know, we found out that it was true or false. Okay, we got an answer to that. But on this, he flatly denies it, and I mean, it's a big accusation to levy on someone. But you know, he's never going to come on front of the camera and admit it if he did it. So the only way we're going to get to the truth is by the police investigating this, finding what evidence is there, and seeing if there's any merit to her accusation. Okay? And as I said, and like I said before, you know, it's very important for women when they are raped or attacked in some way that they get all the evidence they can get. Okay? Christ, the world today has got cameras all over the damn place. I mean, video evidence, something like that, you know, it would be easy to grab or something. You know, DNA evidence, that's another big thing. I mean, Christ, you can track down people in your family history through DNA. I mean, you've got to have something. You know, if you're being attacked, you know, scratch them with your fingernails. They can get the DNA off the fingernails. I mean, there's so many ways you can get evidence in a situation like that you should go after it's happened, okay, to the police, you know, and have them do these things, okay? It's just, I don't know. You can't train people, I guess, to react in a logical way after something like that, I suppose. But in this day and age where people condemn somebody quickly for things, it's very important, very important that people remember that evidence is key. Any kind of evidence is key to something. I mean, Christ, they got better ways to prove somebody lied about saying this person stole something, because they got cameras every 2 inches in the fucking ceiling. You know what I'm saying? But we have to be very aware of that. That evidence is important, okay? And you know, we shouldn't pick on anybody that's been a victim of something like rape or anything like that. We shouldn't do that, okay? Because again, that just continues to make women uncomfortable to even talk about it, okay? And you know, tragic things happen to people, even to men, and sometimes even, you know, they can't talk about it. But if it's a crime, and one day you might feel better about going after the bastard, you know, it would be a lot more helpful to you if you'd had some evidence, you know. I'm just what I'm saying, you know. So like I said, the other part, you know, about, you know, people talking they hated Platner and they didn't want him running, you know, for whatever fucking reason. And I think I know what it was. They just didn't like the way he talked about doing things that were not in line with what the establishment liked. Okay, I even knew that from the very beginning. That's what everybody liked about him, is he was saying things people in Maine were already thinking about. He was giving a voice to that. So you can shoot down the messenger, but the concern is still there. Okay, now what's going to be set up? We're probably going to get presented with a replacement who's going to sound like Bill Platner. Okay, or Graham Platner, I'm sorry. We're probably going to get somebody who's going to try to imitate him in some fashion. He'll tell us everything we want to hear, but he won't do it. You know what I'm saying? Because he knows if I say these things, they'll come rally around me. And, you know, if you're not going to do it, don't fuck with us, okay? I don't know who they're going to pick. Honestly, I don't know. Okay, they haven't said anything yet. They say there are possibilities, this person, possibly. You know, tick, 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 tick. The clock is ticking here. Okay, this is playing out just like goddamn the presidential election, the last one we had. That's what's happening here in Maine. The same shit. I hope people are taking notes of this and seeing the parallels, because what's happening here, okay, in Maine is a repeat of what was going on during the fucking presidential election that got Trump back into office, okay? That's what's going on. Susan Collins is going to be back in there. I know this. She's going to get back in there. Maine's not going to be able to overcome this embarrassment here with Platner, okay? It's discouraging that these things happen, because it makes people not want to vote, because they give up. They say, oh, politics is slanted against us. We can't win this thing. Okay? We can't get our way. It's too corrupt. Well, we made it that way. Really, it's our fault. We made the politics that corrupt. When we stayed home and not got active, when we should have been active, things made it okay for the bad guys to get what they wanted. Okay? The best thing in the world for them is that we don't vote. That's what they like. The more we can discourage them and make them feel shit, okay, they won't get out and vote, and then we'll win. That's the way they Republicans work. Okay? They tear you down emotionally. They give you, you get something that, oh, this is the, like with Bernie Sanders, they get something, everybody loves the guy. Then they take him out of the picture. Okay? And then nobody shows up enough to vote. You see? Same old shit. We have to stop allowing them to do that. We have to stop, by saying, look, I don't give a shit who you could put Mickey Mouse against Susan Collins. We're still going to come out and vote for Mickey Mouse, because she's got to go. She's got to go. She hasn't fucking done anything for us the whole time Trump's been in office. She's been supporting every fucking thing that he's done and undoing a lot of things that she claims she accomplished here in the state. Okay? So I don't care who has to run against her. It's got to be a better choice than her. But like I said, the name you know, That's what flies in this state. That's why she's been in there since she was born, okay? And why she's so old now is because nobody in the state knows any other fucking name. They see somebody else and it doesn't look like Collins. I'm not going to vote for her. I'm not going to vote for him. Okay, that's the way it is. I told you people, Maine is a red state. Okay, it is. Some people say, oh, it's a purple state. No, 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 no. This state is red. It's always been red. Republicans dominate this state. Okay? Once in a while, a Democrat might get into the governor's seat, but they don't always do the best job. They sometimes sound like Republicans. Okay? So we have always leaned to the right in this state, which means you can't count on us, you know, to deliver when it means something. Okay? And I'm afraid that Maine is not going to be behind getting rid of Collins. I'm afraid that she's going to get this seat again now. I'm almost certain of it, okay, at this point. I just feel it in my bones that this is just going to be another 6 years with her until she dies like Mitch McConnell or whatever, okay, which is another, you know, debacle of bullshit that's going on. Everybody's circling the wagons around that old coot, and they don't want anyone to know what his health is, okay? So, and it's funny because, you know, Donald Trump didn't like him. And he's, you know, he's out there, you know, saying, oh, well, you know, he's fine or something like that. And I'm thinking, well, you never liked the guy. McConnell and him had some fights. But, yeah, that's what goes on here. That's how, when you're stuck with Republicans and Democrats and a third party, you know, or somebody in the middle of the road comes in or something that'll threatens to upset that, they get kicked out. The United States will always have just a two-party system. A third party will never be welcome. That's why when people try to start a third party, it always remains small and it never gets big. It stays confined because everybody shuns them in Washington. They keep them marginalized. They don't want them fucking doing anything, okay? Because they know where they're going to go. They know they're going to try to make things more fair for the working class. And they ain't, you know, and it means taking away from the establishment. They're not going to do that. Nobody. Like Chuck Schumer, you know, people like him, they're not going to like that when somebody's talking about not helping out Israel or something like that. Okay? No. Not with him. Okay? He'll fight that tooth and nail, and they will fight as dirty as Republicans will when it comes to that. It's funny. Well, they will do something like that to one of their, you know, somebody in their own constituency, but when it comes to Donald Trump, they sit on their hands. They don't do a fucking thing. Okay? Even AOC wouldn't support Platner. She's always, I don't know, he doesn't, you know, agree with her or something like that. Okay? AOC of all people thought, you know, oh, she's radical or something like that. Not really. Not lately. Okay? I don't know. She's been awful goddamn quiet through a lot of things, okay? So I don't know what's going on with her, but she's really not the mouth that she used to be to get people motivated. In fact, I notice her viewership has dropped a lot there on her webpage and stuff, so a lot of people aren't really listening to her anymore because she's been awfully distant in the corner somewhere. So, you know, and all the wrong people are out there speaking up louder, you know, like Schumer and others, but it's just sad because I don't really know how much progress we're going to make even if we do get Democrats back in power in the houses. Okay, I really don't know because up to now they've really been very weak, okay, on a lot of things. So it's hard to know where they stand these days. I don't know. Anyway, let's go to a commercial break. We'll be right back.
I'm Alex Curtis. I'm a lobsterman in Maine, and this is me.
I'm Roxy Sugar, and this is me. I'm Eric Hopkins. I'm an artist, and this is me.
This is me.
Me.
This is me.
This is me.
At the end of the journey, the main thing is you. Original.
I thought I'd just get head spins, not nicotine poisoning.
Oh my god. His vape taped. I wanted to be social. I didn't want the addiction that took over.
I thought it was just a bit of fun, but not being able to breathe because of lung damage is definitely not fun.
It's proven that vapes cause real harm. Every vape is a hit to your health. For more proof, search vaping harms.
Я уже начинаю волноваться. Ой-ой-ой. Все, мне щекотно.
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it.
It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
Okay, welcome back. All right, here's this article here from the Daily Dose. GOP senator compares socialism to King Kong's genitalia for some reason. Louisiana Republican John Kennedy, who once famously turned heads and stomachs in a 2023 Senate committee hearing on book banning, wherein he awkwardly read literary passages about dildos and strap-ons out loud to his baffled colleagues, apparently decided it was time to remind Americans of his enduring obsession with all things phallic during an absolutely wild Fox News interview yesterday. Speaking with Kellyanne Conway, Kennedy went on a ludicrous rant about progressive Democrats wanting to, quote, kill all the millionaires, unquote, before weirdly declaring that the list of countries that have, quote, tried socialism and rejected it, unquote, was, quote, as long as King Kong's genitalia, unquote. We know Freud would have, a field day is an overused phrase, but honestly, in this case, he really would. Yeah, the guy's always talking about dicks all the time. He must have something going on there, you know. Oh, Jesus. Again, that's, that obviously that attack was meant to go after people who were talking about democratic socialism. Okay? So you see what I'm saying? How the Republicans try to fudge up what they're talking about by dropping the Democrat and just say socialism. And then all of a sudden everybody starts thinking when Democrats are talking about socialism, that's what they're talking about. Not the Democratic one, but the other one. Okay, this is what they do. Okay, and they know what's on people's minds in this country, what they want, and a lot of things that they want is what socialism, democratic socialism will provide. Okay, but they don't want anyone thinking along those lines. Why? Because everybody's in a nice cushy seat in Washington. They get lots of money. Okay, the rich people have balls and stuff and have all kinds of fucking goodies thrown on them and everything. They don't want anybody talking about giving them to the poor in this country and helping them out. Fuck no. We're the slaves, okay? We're enslaved, which is what's going to happen to Russia very soon with the people who can't get paid for their work. Putin is going to put a gun to their heads and say, you're going to work whether you like it or not, and we're not going to pay you. That's where it's coming to over there. What they're doing is they're taking the fast track to where Republicans in our country are trying to bring us to. They'll get there before we do, but that I can guarantee you this is what they want this country to look like in their minds. Because you take a look at what they've done so far in a year and a half under Trump. I mean, and look how much we parallel Russia right now. So don't tell me that these people are anti-communists or anything like that. No, no, no. They are all for it. Hook and line and sinker. They are all jumping in for it. But as they want this, they see how it's playing out in Russia time and time again. It doesn't work. How many fucking times has their government been overthrown in your lifetime? It's fixing to be overthrown again, I feel. At some point the people are simply going to have a civil war over there because it's so bad that no one's going to want this to go on any further. So again, that's what's to come. So it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And for people to argue the point that, oh well, it will work here, to do it this, no. Okay, what we want is something that protects people in this country, when they have their jobs, to protect them, to make sure they get a decent wage, a livable wage, okay, that matches the prices of shit out there, okay? Something that we can survive on, where people don't have to work 15 jobs just to buy a gallon of milk, okay? That's not a livable wage, people. I don't know how some of you feel like working 6 hours a day at this place and working 6 hours a day at this other place, how that's considered normal. It ain't normal, okay? It ain't normal. There was a time when one job was enough to sustain a family of 4 in this country, and those days are gone. They died a long time ago, okay? And that's because the prices of things have gone up faster than the wages should have gone up, okay, to match it. They've always kept the increased wages to a minimum, but they've gone right through the roof with what it costs to live in this country. So people have no choice but to pick up other jobs somewhere. So that's what we're looking for when we're talking about Democrat socialism. We want things to be fair, okay? And it ain't fair. And that means that some of the wealthy are going to have to sacrifice a little bit of that wealth just to make sure the rest of us, can survive. Now, that might sound like, oh, that's terrible, but are you saying you're willing to shoulder the burden of death and famine, and people dying because they can't afford health care? Is that what you're talking about? You're all in favor of that? What the hell kind of man or woman are you? That you're going to sit there and let your elderly parents die because they can't afford health care just so, you can have the money that probably would have saved them. Where the hell are your priorities? I realize that morality in this country stinks to high heaven, but Jesus Christ, there's got to be a fucking line drawn somewhere in the sand. Okay? I don't know. It's very depressing. Okay, well... Okay, Trump recently claimed that he ended a war in which 15 million people had their heads chopped off. Really? This flew under the radar, but Donald Trump, ender of many great wars, personally swooped in and halted genocidal hostilities between the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Rwanda last year. Huh? According to the great peacemonger, quote, 15 million people had their heads chopped off, unquote, before he stepped in and magically ended the conflict. Quote, I should have won that award more than... He's still on about that goddamn Nobel Peace Prize. Quote, I should have won that award more than anybody that ever received the Nobel Peace Prize because nobody settled wars. I settled 8 of them. Can you just name one? Because I am certain type of personality, I was able to settle them, unquote, Trump said. Oh, he's a certain type of personality. Okay. Yeah, this is another statement in a long line of outrageous statements that he's made in his life that has absolutely no basis in fact. Okay, he didn't do a goddamn thing in the Congo or Rwanda or fucking Mars for that matter. Okay, tomorrow he'll tell us, oh, he improved things on Mars so man can move there. Okay, this is what this guy does. You know, I had a member of my family who used to talk shit like that all the time, and I'll tell you, every time he opened his mouth, we started laughing, okay, because it was so ridiculous, okay, and we knew he was lying. Jesus. That all that guy ever did was brag, 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 all the fucking time, okay, and so, you know, maybe that's how I developed a good bullshit filters, because, you know, we had some people in my family that were bullshitters all the time, and you know, they try to spin a good fucking yarn, but I'll tell you, it always has it's always fraying somewhere in that fucking story, okay? And Trump is so much like these people, you know. I know a bullshitter when I hear one, okay? That's why I didn't like this guy from day one, okay? And he's always trying to convince you he's telling you the truth, but his stories are so outlandish, it's hard to fucking even try to go there that it's true. For some people, I guess they grew up in a nice Eden or something like that where everybody was truthful. Nobody ever lied to them. And so they approach life that way. And so when Trump says something like that, they believe it. Oh, really? You know, but they don't ask him, well, can you show me? You know, no. And see, when the press tries to do that to him, he gets pissed. Oh, the press is corrupt. Oh, you know, you're a hateful person. He doesn't like it. He just wants you to soak it up and believe it. That's what he wants. While he's screwing you in the butt there with fucking cost of living, okay? I mean, that's all this man is about. Here we go again. Trump claims Tehran called and, quote, want to make a deal so badly, unquote, after a second night of strikes. Okay, I noticed the gas went up here. It's at $4 a gallon. It's going to be higher than that tomorrow. The interminable game of strikes followed by empty promises of negotiations in a desperate attempt to manipulate the markets and stave off the looming global economic catastrophe of Trump's own creation continues. He has to know this can't work forever, right? You would think. But nothing this guy ever did so far makes any logical sense. Okay? Any fucking person who's been paying attention up to this point does not see anything that this man does as logical. It sounds, what he does makes it seem like he's there only to destroy the country. Like he hates America so bad that he's systematically trying to pick it to death. Kill it by 1,000 cuts. Or, you know what I'm saying? That's what he's doing. He does something here, does something there. You know, and he gets us involved in a war we shouldn't be involved in because he knows that's going to hurt our economy, you know, and it's going to drain our fuel supply. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, no matter what happens, okay, he feels like, oh, I'm doing good. He's happy about it. I feel he's happy about it if we're suffering. Okay? He doesn't have any respect for the institutions of this country. He wants to put his name on every fucking thing out there, trying to force you to love him. Okay? I mean, who the hell does shit like that? A psychopath. He knows everybody hates him, but he's out there jerking himself off to try to make people appreciate him. I'm going to put my face on the $250 bill or something like that. Okay? You know, there's people, and I think of people that do this, but they're kids. They haven't matured up here yet. Okay? That do that kind of shit. I remember growing up, you know, when I was in school, and kids would be doing stuff like that, you know, trying to, you know, embolden or something, or, you know, make their image better somehow. I don't know. But they did that. And, you know, it was always like, you know, nobody else agrees with what you're doing. You know, it's like, okay. But they would do that. And what he's doing, it looks so childish. Because he has the money and the power to do these things, he's going to do it. You take that fucking power and money away from him, he couldn't do any of that stuff. He would just melt internally because he couldn't do it. But it seems to me like once he got into the White House and he felt he was safe from prison, okay, he decided, well, I'm going to spend this time honoring myself. I'm going to put statues here. I'm going to rename that. I'm going to put a picture over here. I'm going to put my face on a piece of cash. Okay, you know what I'm saying? That's kind of what he was thinking the whole time. Everything else is just not out of his sight, out of his mind. I don't know how involved he is with these strikes in Iran. Okay, I can't believe that he's really that engaged because of all the pictures of him sleeping at the 4th of July celebration. People got a picture of him like that while the fireworks are going off. He's so fucking tired, he couldn't even stay awake during that. Jesus. Okay, so it's like, you know, how invested in this country is he really? You know, I mean, sure, he comes out and he gives speeches about how he did this or that. Maybe he dreamed it. Maybe in his dreams he thought he did something for Rwanda or something like that, and he thinks it really happened. Okay? That's probably a sign of his dementia, you know, that it's getting so bad now that, you know, he's mistaking dreams for reality. I hope he doesn't dream that Russia launched missiles towards us, you know, because then he'll get up and say, we got to launch them back, you know, and is anybody going to be there to say, no, it's a... No. Just think about who he surrounded himself with, folks. Christ, you know. These are people who are just waiting for, you know, something, you know, for him to give him something to do. Okay, so remember I was telling you how, you know, he doesn't like Mitch McConnell here. Well, there's this thing. Is that Donald Trump's dismissive answer to Mitch McConnell's health raises all the eyebrows. The president hilariously torpedoed his own party's efforts to quote, weekend at Mitch's, unquote, the possibly brain-dead Kentucky senator by straight up admitting that he has no idea what his health status is. That's not good for the Republicans who are trying to cover this shit. He comes out and says, I don't know. Okay. You know, Donald is telling the truth because as a certified McConnell hater, he can't be bothered to do the, quote, oh, he's just resting, oh, quote, song and dance that the rest of the Republican leadership is desperately trying to perform. If the president doesn't know what's going on with Mitch, does this cover-up go all the way to the top? Many people are saying this. I don't think that it does. I mean, I think they're keeping him out of the loop. There's a lot of anger in some of the parts of the Republican Party over Trump, and they just don't want to include him in on that. Maybe they're afraid of what he'll say or not say. You know, they can't trust him, which goes back to what I was just saying about how involved is he in this government at this point. Okay? How fucking involved could he possibly be? If his mind is going as bad as people or in some places are saying, then it's to their benefit that the Republicans try to cover that, and by excluding him out of certain things. Okay? Just saying. I don't know. I mean, that's kind of what I'm kind of sensing here is maybe, you know, like when Ronald Reagan started to go towards the end, you know, the vice president and all them, they were kind of picking up the slack, basically. They wouldn't actually have him out in front of the cameras too much or say things too much because he just didn't seem, you know, like he was cognizant, you know. But, you know, they could be doing the same thing now with Trump. I mean, everybody was speculating on that for what, 2 years about, you know, because of the things he would say that were really bizarre, okay? And now the things he's saying now are just so bizarre that we know they're not true, but he says it like he means it, like he thinks it's real. So I feel like, well, maybe his dementia makes him think that what he's saying is real, because maybe he dreamed it and he thought he actually experienced that, you know? That's been known to happen. My grandfather, okay, had Alzheimer's, and, you know, he thought a lot of times that he was still a kid, okay, and, you know, when he was kind of reliving a little bit of things in his childhood, you know, toward the end. I mean, so your mind will go into different places that, you know, beyond your control, I guess, as you get that. And with Trump being the president, or sitting in the office of the president, you know, and having that power, I mean, they can't just say, okay, let's take him to the hospital, and, you know, they can't just do this. I mean, you know, they're afraid of him looking weak, even though he already does. So we wouldn't think any worse of him if they admitted, yes, he does have Alzheimer's and he's, okay, we would say, oh, okay, well, that explains a lot, okay, because they've been doing a piss poor job of covering that up, just like they're doing a piss poor job of trying to protect Mitch McConnell from whatever the hell's ailing him. We know it's got to be serious, otherwise, you know, you can do a video, have him record him while he's in the hospital, have him say something on a cell phone and record it so you can give it to the press, or, you know what I'm saying? There's so many ways they could just prove that he's okay, that he's still alive, but they ain't doing it. So that makes people wonder, is this even true? I mean, is he even alive or is he dead? You know, and if he's dead, then they have to, you know, they got to put somebody in his seat, and that's the part they don't want to do. So how long are they going to keep up this charade until they fucking admit it? People should be screaming their bloody fucking heads off in Kentucky, you know, for goddamn proof of this. Like I said, you can't just say something and then expect people to believe it, okay, without proof, especially when it comes to, you know, a guy that's been missing for weeks, okay, and say, oh, he's fine, he's fine. Well, the eyes say otherwise, okay? They say, you know, we ain't been around for, who the hell's running, you know, who's doing the job for him while he's been gone? How can you vote or do anything if he's not there? You know? I mean, he's the majority leader, for Christ's sake. But where the hell is he? So, yeah, this is not good, you know, and it shows just how much corruption goes on in our government, thanks to Trump. I mean, because he's got all kinds of fucking people, you know, MAGA nuts, okay, who operate under the you know, thing of hiding the truth from people, you know, just keeping it from them. It's the same fucking shit goes on in Russia with Putin, you know. He said, you know what Putin told the people here yesterday? He said that they have a plan to build a nuclear power plant on the moon. While the whole country is falling apart, okay? While the whole country's falling apart from this fucking war and on the eve of probably just being totally annihilated by Ukraine because they lost their last fucking oil refinery, he's sitting here telling the people that, oh, we're going to have a nuclear power plant on the moon. You know, it's like they don't even have a space program right now. They've sucked all the money out of that to try to fund their war, and now they've lost all that. And it's like, you know, this is what he tells the people. And what do you think the people are doing? What do they think? You know, they're mad only because of the gas. They can't get their fuel, right? They can't gas up their cars. They're pissed off about that. So Putin goes on TV and tells them this shit. Would you think that makes these people feel any better? He thinks it was supposed to, but it ain't working, you know? 70%, you know, I guess it's from whatever polling data they get this from. They say 70% of the Russians are pissed off as hell Mary hell with Putin right now. You know, somebody's either going to off him or whatever, you know, but his days are numbered, you know, and so is the country. You know, Ukraine is not going to let up on this. They got the advantage. They're going to press it home. You know, they're going to take this fight right to Moscow if they have to, and which they are. You know, they've been bombing shit all over Moscow. So the people over there are pissed off, nerved, you know, because they're boom, you know, 1 minute it's quiet, the next minute an explosion. You know, these people are starting to feel like what the Ukrainians had to go through at the beginning of the war, when the Russians just simply invaded the country for no goddamn good reason. Okay? So, yeah. But yeah, I wanted to tell you that about fucking Putin and this. I think maybe he's losing his fucking mind too. When isn't it time to start putting age limits on goddamn people representing their country? You know, if you're over the age of 70, you know, stay the fuck out of it, okay? We just don't want you, because you're probably at death's doorstep by then. Because our life expectancy is going to start going down in this country thanks to RFK. Christ. What was it? There's something goddamn outbreak that's threatening to kill all the cattle in this country here. I can't even remember where the hell I read that. But, you know, it's funny how all these things are happening now that we don't really have a health department to speak of anymore in this country. Jesus Christ. I mean, by the time the next president gets in here, we're all going to be suffering from a plague here, you know. I don't know. But that's it for today. So I hope everybody has a great rest of the week. Subscribe, comment, share. Keep your ears open for health-related issues. And to help each other out as best you can when you can. It's really essential that we start to, you know, look to each other more than anything now for help, because, you know, our government, in its own way, or however you want to consider it, it's falling apart. And essential services might be slower or might be non-existent for some people, but that means the rest of us are going to have to pick up the slack, okay? So you're going to have to think of that in the days to come here, because things they're bound to get more dire. Okay, so I'll talk to you later. Take care.